I don't know what the first movie I remember seeing is. I remember the one that left the biggest impression on me when I was younger. I think I was around 10 or 11 when I first saw the Rocky Horror Picture Show for the first time. Scene where Tim Curry comes down and, you know, Susan Sarandon, they're all like screaming, I don't know, maybe we should get out of here. This place is so weird. It's after the time warp. You see this platform shoe coming down, this elevator behind like a curtain, you think, but it's a cape, and he spins around, he's got this crazy makeup on, and he just looked like the female version of my mother. So I just have this tremendous affinity for him in this movie, and he's the only person I've ever seen in person that I couldn't talk to. It's interesting, when I first started getting into acting, my dad said that you should, you know, watch Reservoir Dogs. And watching that movie over and over again taught me about acting. The soundtrack in that film was the first album that I had to, you know, I had gone to like the Tower Records, I gone to all these different places to get the record, you know, to get the CD, and they didn't have it, so I had to order it. I think it only finally just, you know, graduated back into another fold and is not in my sort of mix of 5 CDs permanently in my car. You know, probably the hardest part about doing nudity and Alexander was trying to make sure it wasn't just gratuitous. I didn't want to just be the naked girl in the movie. My brother works in a strip club, and he's a DJ. And I remember we had a whole conversation when the movie came out, and he was like, okay, I'm only going to say this once, but I'm just glad you're fit, Rosario. Because, you know, he works with all these women who are naked all the time, and it would have been really embarrassing for him, apparently, had, you know, this movie come out and I'm naked in it and I didn't look as good as the girls he plays music for. I was like, I'm glad I didn't embarrass you, Clay. I'm glad. Thank you. Okay, we don't have to talk about this anymore. You don't get to choose, you know, the family you're born into, you know, and it's really incredible to look at my family. My grandmother raised 5 kids on her own. She started having kids, I think, when she was 19. And my mom got pregnant with me at 16. You know, I have very young family members. When I was a kid, and I would do not something wrong, but maybe I was a bit precocious or something like that at times, which she raised me to be. But every once in a while, you know, she'd feel the need to have to put me back into my place, and she would lick me in public. And she used to say, you know, I'm gonna lick you, Rosario, calm down. I'd be like, Mom, you know, I'm good. I'm talking to your friend. I'm in the middle of a conversation, don't interrupt, you know? And she would come over and she would lick me from like chin to forehead, globs of sweat, like, and saliva and nastiness. And she would say, you came out of my vagina. I'm not grossed out. You shouldn't be grossed out. You're mine. I told you to go to your room. Go to your room. And it would just be this like humiliating experience. And it was great. I mean, she wasn't hitting, she wasn't yelling, she wasn't any of those other things, but it definitely puts you in your place, I have to say. Horrifying. I have a whole, my boyfriend gets really mad about it because I have the whole thing about spit. I'm not into spit. I'm totally traumatized with spit. Spittle, not so much. You know, my mom was a plumber, and she used to work jackhammers on the street, and she got hit by a car by someone who fell asleep at the wheel, and she got carpal tunnel, and she got, you know, all this stuff that went wrong with her, and now there's this points in her life where she can't open a jar sometimes, you know, it's just her body just, she's trapped in her body. And this is, you know, the Amazon that I grew up with, my 6-foot-tall Puerto Rican Cuban woman from the Bronx, like, that's my mom. She was indestructible. And to see her over these years, like, having real injuries and now having real diseases, is like, it's really scary, you know, there's this bubble you live in of, you know, just thinking that you're infallible, and that's just, we're so fragile as human beings. You know, it's hard to keep that balance between going, oh, I didn't get enough foam on my latte, and wow, I'm a speck on a planet in the universe. You know, sometimes you forget how to balance the both of them, but it's so necessary. You don't want to do that in your last moments when you're going, oh, you know, I shoulda, coulda, woulda, didn't, damn.